What is up, everyone? If I look like hell, Hell, it's because I am hell. All right, so let's go ahead and get this thing good going. First off, looking into my old episodes, I realized that I have neglected to do one thing that I said I was going to start doing in most of my videos, and that was showing y'all the progression on this little ditty that I've been trying to work on. So this is, I mean, I got all the white, but I this is orange, blue, uh, red, green. I'm judging. I'm going about the. I'm going about the centerpieces, and yellow. And I am not. I don't know. Like I'm doing it nude, as in like I'm doing it like without trying to find out any like secrets or like I was initially trying to figure out how to solve it as far as like going on the internet and like how to solve Rubik's cubes step one, but it was just too confusing. So I'm just kind of like I'm just doing it kind of in such a way. I'm just doing it like without anything else. I'm just like if I solves it, I solves it. But if I don't, I'm not exactly the smartest human being on the planet anyway, no big deal. But that's not what this video is about. This video is ultimately me trying to bring up that I am not a liberal or a leftist or anything of that nature. I'm not a liberal, not a Democrat, not a leftist. And the big reason why is because I have no clue what those things are. Like 0%. I can't stress enough how there's a lot of things in the world that I don't know. And because I don't know things, I'm not going to try to claim those things. I probably might have done that back then, but when it comes to like politics, I don't know where I am politically. I just know I don't like the right wing. Now, with my upbringing, with the way that I grew up, it's really easy it would have been really easy for me to be like conservative or a Republican or whatever. And I wanted to kind of get into that. I think I've talked about this before in another video that I did, but I never really got like in depth about. Oh my god, I'm not even tired. It's just warm in here. Okay, so but the thing is that growing up in the South, you were kind of introduced to conservatism was kind of like just everywhere at the time. I remember being a kid and I was really like hocked up about saving money, and people would be like, oh, that's really conservative of you. So I thought that conservative back then just meant you saved money, you was responsible with money. And it's like, well, that's exactly what it means today. No, it does not. No, it doesn't. But you know growing up with people telling me that, I used to say, "Oh, I'm conservative because I like to save money." So it was also kind of like when people are nice to you, as like when people were nice to me as a kid, I kept that. You know what I mean? I received it and I kept it. Something like to kind of like just sort of like define who I am in a positive way, because I was called a nerd, I was called ugly, I was being picked on a lot. So somebody said something nice about me, it stuck. So conservative at the time just meant financially responsible. So I would like go up to people and be like, I'm conservative, like a gold badge on my chest or something. And that wasn't the case though. As the older I got, the more I started to the older I got, the more I started to I started questioning things. And the big thing initially was religion. I think I told the story in my earlier videos about how my mama just whooped the religion right out of me, because she was giving me a whooping, and in the middle of the whooping, the first thing that went to, at some point I'm like, God, please at least get her to tell me why she's doing this. And that never happened. I just got whipped, and I never knew why. And so in my brain, I'm like, God just saw me get my butt whipped, and then I had to go to church that following week. And you can only imagine just how the thought process going on in my head is like, I'm about to worship a guy who just saw me get whipped for no reason. I'm not about to, I can't worship that guy no more. So like that ultimately kind of took away whatever perspective I've had about religion. And the thing about like being a member of the right wing or the Republican or the conservative movement is that they're really hyper fixated on religion. And I just, that's like, it is. I have nothing against religion in general. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you do whatever you need to do to motivate being a decent human being, by all means. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing wrong with using whatever you know to be a decent person or just a good person or whatever. There's nothing wrong with that. But like, it's basically when you utilize your beliefs as a means to enforce the wrong practices to people is where kind of I draw the line at, because I can't look at somebody, or rather, I can't look at that and people abusing these things and being like, I should totally follow that. And like I said, the older I got, I started like just sort of questioning things on a political scale, like on again and off again for years, and it didn't necessarily click that the Republican Party were the bad guys until Trump got elected. And because when Trump got elected, you had like all of these, these telltale signs. Like, first off, people who didn't like I said, being in the South, it was kind of hard to tell if people didn't like Obama simply because they didn't agree with his political stances on things, or if they just didn't like him because he was a black dude. You know what I'm saying? It was really kind of hard to sort of pluck out like who didn't like him for reasons that actually had to do with politics and reasons of him just being a dude who wasn't white. And so that was like step one right there, And then, like down the line, down the line, I remember the thing that really kind of stuck with me. One of the big reasons why I don't consider myself to be like a right wing person is because at some point I bring up how, what, I have stances on things now. I'm not on the fence about everything anymore. I don't like racism. I don't like oppression. I don't like the idea of harming people simply because you don't like them. I like to think that if you are doing something to someone, it's because of something that they have done rather than who they are as a person. And, somebody was like, shut up, liberal. And I'm like, let me see. So it's kind of weird to say that, because if I'm saying stuff like I don't like, oppression or racism or homophobia or transphobia, if I'm saying that I don't like the idea of harming somebody because of who they are rather than what they do, and you immediately equate that to being a liberal, now I have to wonder, like, what is the opposite of that? You know what I mean? Like, well, we're conservatives. We like racism over here, which is basically all I'm hearing. You know what I mean? So it's like, there's nothing promising about that. Then at some point, I remember like somebody was like, well, the Democrats made the KKK, which, I mean, historically speaking, is true. So like, I'm like, so I found myself asking, why didn't the Republicans do something about the Klan when it had all of these presidents in office then? Like, they had all of these presidents in office, they had all of these governors, they got all of these people that are in power. Why is the Klan still a thing today? And the same people be like, well, they got the right to free speech and the First Amendment. They're not necessarily doing anything wrong. So it's like, let me see if I got this right. The same people who literally say everything that's been done by Democrats should be undone, immediately just like they're just like wiping clean anything like the Klan. Like, what's going on? Like, hold on, let me see if I got this right. The Democrats have done everything wrong, and everything that the Democrats done needs to be undone, except for the Klan. Okay, I think I see where you guys are going with this. I am not supporting y'all. It's just like, my whole thing is that, like, my biggest problem ultimately with these people is that they're hyper fixated on the idea of making sure that you don't necessarily have, like, if you have an alliance to someone, so to speak, that alliance should be on like one of the two parties. And it's like, well, I am a strict and firm believer of being in America, where we have more than two parties, and you can choose as an American to support neither party. And I would rather support myself, than support any political party, because, as I've said in my last video, there's too much ambiguity, and there's too much like there's too, like, you can't put somebody on a pedestal because they'll knock themselves right down. And it's like, what are you gonna do? Follow them still? or be upset or whatever. It's just like it's weird to me. But yeah, like I couldn't do the whole Republican thing because the more I started to learn kind of like how there's a lot that goes into picking a political party, and like but you can't choose no side. You can't choose like not supporting anything. And I choose to not support anything. I just know that I don't like the right wing because, like right now, like I mean, y'all went from Donald Trump to Marjorie Taylor Greene. You know what I'm saying? Marjorie Taylor Greene. It's the same lady who basically told the country that Jewish people established a laser in the sky to start the wildfires in California. I mean, she could have easily just said anybody constructed the lasers in the sky to do the California wildfire, but she specifically said Jewish people. So it's like these are the people that you guys are supporting right now. You have Lauren Boebert, who basically says she's gonna walk into Capitol Hill with a gun. Like, why? It's like, are you trying to bring back old customs? Because they did actually bring weapons into whatchamacallit back then. But that's what I'm saying though. It's just like it's wild to me because in order to be political, I would have to be okay with supporting stuff like that, and I just choose not to. And it's like, and the reason why I'm not supporting the Democrats and whatever is because you have Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema who basically just said to heck with poor people. We want to keep money in our own pockets. You know what I'm saying? Then there's Nancy Pelosi, who I have mixed feelings about because part of me is just respectful of the fact that she's like I think she's like the first woman to hold her spot as Speaker of the House. So like that is a monumental thing, but she also has like ties to the stock market, which means that like she's getting richer off of stock market stuff. Which, by the way, the stock market needs to be regulated. So it's like you kind of need to do something about that, Nancy. What the world, and it's just like all like I also have some questionable thoughts about the governor of Louisiana, who is the Democrat John Bel Edwards. The fact is that like there is no one perfect party. You know what I'm saying? And if you go off of the idea that you're supposed to support one of the two parties, which is something that Republicans like to push, then it's like all they're doing is just saying, well, our side is better anyway. And it's like, that's not the conversation that I'm trying to have, buddy. That's not the It's like that's a 16-year-old discussion. That's children. That's children's talk. It's not about who's better or who's worse or like which side beating your chest about. This isn't gang warfare, bro. This isn't like what political party you rep. Because there's only two, and if you ain't red, you blue. You know what I'm saying? It's like no, this is not that. It's like, man, the thought of political parties being like just gangbanging for old white people is hilarious though. Because you got like one side who's like heavily devoted to what they're doing and the other side who just genuinely don't care. It's like, I think this is what there is. I think this is just another attempt at a racist trying to culturally appropriate gang culture. But because they can't be Crips and Bloods, they rather be Republicans and Democrats instead. It's hilarious, man. But yeah, that's just my take on it, though. It's like I'm neither left nor right. I'm not gonna call myself center. I'm just gonna say, like there's some things that I look at conservatively, and there's some things I look at liberally. You know what I'm saying? I'm not a fan of, for example, I always go back to the fact that I'm not a fan of weed and I'm not a fan of abortions. However, I'm not going to tell anybody else not to partake in it because I'm not a fan of it. All I can say is I'm doing my part to prevent abortions by not impregnating women all crazily and getting like whatever. And I'm also like taking my part in the fact that I don't like weed by not partaking in weed. Those are personal responsibilities that only I can have. But I will say I'm not a fan of them. It's just wild to me that there are groups of people out there in this nation that are actively trying to like just sort of take things away from other people just because they don't like it. and I don't know. I guess part of me just doesn't agree with that or wants to. So this video is 15 minutes long, and I'm pretty sure I said a whole lot of nothing. Y'all have a nice day. Love and peace out there. Please be safe. And also, hey Jovi, how's it going? Really glad that you're watching my videos. I appreciate it. Also, thanks again.